Tensions between the far right and hard left in France are at boiling point after the death of a young man in Lyon.
He was protecting a woman's group there. It was called Collective Nemesis. The French media describes them as far right. They write, they bear the name of the Greek goddess of vengeance and specialize in direct action. Created in 2019, the Nemesis Collective, which identifies as feminist, consistently blames immigrants and Muslims for sexual violence. There's a man here, French student. Unfortunately, he was murdered. So he was murdered. This happened Thursday. 23-year-old French student. Quentin is how we would, is it
Quentin.
Quentin
Yeah.
Deranque. I know how you would pronounce the second. I'm doing it French Canadian. People in France can correct me. He was, and before, it's a heartbreaking story. And it mirrors what you guys lived in real time that I think a lot of people have moved on from too quickly when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And we went from, but he kind of deserved it, and people trotted out the lies, to desecrating, vandalizing every single memorial in a major city. It was either spit on, you had protesters, you had people destroying it. And we moved on from that, where I think it was way too fast. You need to understand that these people, meaning the left, they want you dead. They will justify it once you're dead. They'll say that they aren't, but they will, because they'll say, well, maybe if he hadn't, burned a Quran. Okay, then you scale it back. Maybe if he hadn't insulted anybody, let's scale it back. Maybe if his dog hadn't done a Nazi salute, let's scale it back. Maybe if he hadn't sit down on a campus and would listen to anyone willing to take the microphone, including to insult him. It's always, look, of course it's never acceptable, but you shouldn't be doing X, Y, Z. Well, in this case, French student, and I'll get to the media coverage thereafter. He was beaten to death by French ANTIFA, basically.
Tensions between the far right and hard left in France are at boiling point after the death of a young man in Lyon. The 23-year-old, known as
By the way, we'll
was
blur
struck
it,
in the
but
head
I
during
understand
a
that this can be
confrontation.
disturbing.
He later died from his injuries. Activists from the far-right women's group Nemesis were protesting against a university appearance by hard-left MEP Rima Hassan from the party France Unbowed. According to the Nemesis Collective, Quentin was part of the security team responsible for ensuring their safety. The family's lawyer stated that Quentin was a mathematics student and was not a security guard or a member of any security service.
So he died 2 days later, to be clear, but this is them beating him, not resisting. Now, let me make this really clear, and then I'll give you the clips and all the references. This was not somebody who was part of far-right anything. This is someone who probably would be a part of what you would consider in the United States, moderate right. And these people weren't far left. You can't fit a pencil between them and the mainstream liberalism, leftism in Europe, or even really the Democrat Party, just to be clear. So they'll say, these are far right, far left. No, there is no fringe left. You cannot find a single member of a national head of the leftist party in that country, or in the United States, take every single member of the DNC at a national level. There's nothing about them that is moderate. Abortion up until and including birth period, censorship and removal of speech, all of it, as radical as it gets. I'll tell you what this guy believed. So who he was protecting a woman's group there. It was called Collective Nemesis. The French media describes them as far right. They write, they bear the name of the Greek goddess of vengeance and specialize in direct action. Created in 2019, the Nemesis Collective, which identifies as feminist, consistently blames immigrants and Muslims for sexual violence. That would be terrible if immigrants and Muslims weren't committing the lion's share of sexual violence. By the way, I didn't realize we went late. You can go and watch Andrew Crucible on YouTube, the extravaganza here on Rumble, 5 p.m. Eastern every night. And if you're not a member, hey, we're going to continue on Rumble Premium here. We're going to play Pokemon or Racial Slur. You can click that button, join up, or if not, you're going to go on to Tim Pool, and we will earn your viewership tomorrow. Here are the radical right-wing extremists in their own words.
Nous sommes la génération sommée de se taire lorsque ses agresseurs ne plaisent pas à nous toutes, Oser le féminisme ou Caroline de Haas.
Nous sommes la génération de Claire, violée par un centrafricain sous OQTF.
Nous sommes la génération de Luna, petite Suédoise de 10 ans, suppliciée par un migrant dans un square et laissée pour morte.
Nous sommes la génération des jeunes Anglaises blanches, prostituées en masse.
Nous sommes la génération qui voit ses grands-mères violées dans des lits d'hôpitaux.
Nous sommes la génération des femmes athlètes obligées de perdre face à des hommes voulant usurper nos places sur les podiums.
Celle de Lola, des viols de masse de Cologne et tant d'autres. Celle du passé et celle de demain.
Parce que nous n'avons pas à être sacrifiés sur l'autel du vivre ensemble, nous vous annonçons aujourd'hui la création de la branche média de Némésis.
So I would say that, they just stated facts, that mass migrant rape, including grooming gangs and having to get the crap beaten out of you by men in women's sports, I would say that in the realm of feminist gripes, like those are some of the few legitimate ones.
Yes.
That makes them far right. What's not far left is in the States when they bitch about patriarchy and a wage gap that doesn't exist and a rape culture that doesn't exist here. When they're addressing an actual rape culture that, by the way, has seen a notable uptick in rapes directly as a result of policies, it's right-wing extremists. Also, the reason they were protesting they were protesting the far-left French MEP member Rima Hassan, who called Hamas's October 7th attack legitimate from the perspective of international law. So that's why they were there protesting. They knew it could get dicey.
Yeah.
They had this guy there to help protect them, and he got beaten to death for his troubles.
Exactly. And basically what they just said is like they listed a bunch of, in French that you couldn't understand, right? They listed a bunch of incidents that happened and said, you don't have to sacrifice us on the altar of living together.
Yes.
That's their crime, is they don't want to be killed or completely ruined for life on the altar of living together, which has failed everywhere in the world.
It's another failure of, hey, we are the world, link arms. Well, hold on a second. The arm you're linking with, they believe that women can be raped with no recourse. That brings us to this week's Claim Truth. You don't hate the press enough, because here's the claim.
Or the French.
Yeah, or the
French.
French. Here's the claim that they made, that this man died after an altercation between political groups. They wrote, anti-fascist versus nationalist, 23-year-old declared brain dead. Macron calls for restraint after death of young men attacked in line. Fatal beating of 23-year-old French youth aligned with the far right. The truth is that he was beaten to death by an organized group while he was not resisting. Just to be clear, the prosecutor's office is investigating aggravated violence due to 3 circumstances: group activity, use of weapon, attackers, faces being covered. The attorney for the family described the attack as a methodically prepared ambush by organized and trained individuals. Here's the next claim that they make. Even though they're saying, like, we're not justifying it, but that's right, we're not justifying it, but he was a far-right extremist. That's what they'll say. And even here, by the way, CBS said killing of far-right activist stokes tensions in France. Not left-wing group kills man, protecting feminist group opposing rape. Killing of far-right activist. This is from 20 Minutes France, wrote, the death of Quentin in Lyon, unremarkable student or national activist. Who was the young man who died on Saturday? As though those are the only two choices.
Yeah, well, I mean, first, unremarkable student. It's a dick move. Sorry.
It's not okay.
Language,
it's never
like,
justified.
What?
Even if it's an unremarkable student, national activist, right-wing extremist, it's not okay. No one's saying it's okay.
How about just student? Like, come on.
Yeah.
A man was killed, but it's okay because he was a simple.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Was stupid.
This comes from Libération, they wrote. Profile, far-right activist, traditionalist Catholic, who was Quentin Deranque, fatally attacked in Lyon.
Lyon.
Yeah, I know. I just want to say Lyon. It's always harder for me to say the French, because I'm trying to say it the way you guys say it. Like lingerie, lingerie.
Ben demandé.
It's lingerie. I don't know, so forgive me. You can admonish me, but in my mind, and I say English words in French sometimes too.
Why me? Not me, Tim.
No, I deserve it too.
No, you do deserve it. I just don't.
Lyon.
Can I just point out that I'm going to make an executive decision here? And earlier, Stephen said that if there was a Frenchman who wanted to correct him on something that they can't. You're not. If you're French, you're not allowed to correct anybody on anything.
I'm always trying to circumvent, like, how do you say this in the English way that people know? Like,
but they're French.
Yeah.
Who cares what they think?
Like, people here say, I sleep au naturel, right? It's like, no one in French is like, moi je dorme buck naked.
Why not? That sounds fun.
It does. Yeah. It's just not very sexy. It feels like a French thing, like, he dorme buck naked. It's not a sexy language.
So goofy.
We will use French words like, oh, je veux caresser. It's not like, je veux vous caresser avec mon coq.
Whoa.
They're like, ah, wash, c'est dégueulasse. That means gross in French.
Sure.
That's why we say excuse my French, because it's unpleasant words.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Here's the truth, too. This man wasn't violent. He wasn't extreme. So family and fellow parishioners, they described Quentin as involved in pastoral life and that he was a noted pacifist. He was there to try and help ladies who were opposing the political ideology, who have opened them up to mass migrant rape. He was there to protect them, hopefully, from any type of mass migrant rape or assault. And he was killed for his troubles.
Simp.
Yeah. Here's the next. That's the one time.
It's true. It's a simp. I mean, what are you doing? Don't look. They're feminists still. They're still feminists. They paved the way for all this shit. Let them deal with it. Let them deal with it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, look at all the terrible things. It's like, look, if you don't make them deal with the repercussions of what it is that they've been advocating for the last 80 years.
There's a lot of compartmentalization.
Then what do you want?
Yeah.
You don't go simp for them.
He put his life on the line.
Make them deal with it.
Well, and now he's given fodder to the left where here's the next claim that they make. The next claim that they make is this death is the fault of, no, not the people who killed him. No, not the left. No, not the Islamic migrant rapists who have warranted opposition. His death is the fault of the far right.
Une fois, la gravité des faits nous oblige aussi à ne pas tomber. Vous savez, dans les moments de bascule comme ça vers l'extrême droite dans les pays, les militants de gauche sont souvent accusés de tous les maux. Et mais je vous le dis, on exonère aussi trop facilement les responsabilités d'en face. Et donc, je le dis, moi j'attends, je suis prudente.
Right. We can't exonerate the responsibility from the far right. The far right is responsible for this. Here's the truth. That is unadulterated bullshit. People were peacefully protesting, as those on the right do, the destruction of their country by the left systematically for good reason, by the way. You have to ask, okay, these people protesting, ask yourself two questions. Are they doing it in the way that protest is meant to be done? Yes. They're not burning down cities. Okay. Do they have a legitimate grievance? Well, let me give you one example. Sexual assault in France, 2025. Record highs, 9 every day on public transport in France, which, by the way, is a way of life for most people in France.
That's just on public transport.
Just on public transport. 9 a day.
That's not even...
9 per day. And if you're watching this, if you're an alien and you landed on Earth right now, this would be Exhibit 492, that political violence is a leftist problem. If you were to land on Earth today as an alien and say, people, we have to end violence, you would go, okay, well, first off, we're going to have to sequester Africa. And then we're going to have to look at these places in the civilized world. Who is committing the acts of violence? Oh, those who either have migrated to this world or those who defend them on the left. You would objectively look at it and say, okay, it's a left-wing problem. But they somehow find a way to contort themselves and blame the far right, even though this guy wasn't a part of the far right. They did the same thing with Charlie Kirk. Oh, the far right rhetoric. What? You don't hate the press enough. And through their actions and through the way that they cover these stories consistently, they make it very clear that they don't just dislike you. They have deep-rooted disdain for you. Think about this for a second. If you were out there, you could have been at a Tea Party rally. If you were out there protesting Black Lives Matter, if you were out there protesting property taxes in Texas, pick your right-leaning cause, and you were killed in front of your family by Antifa, the media would not venerate you. They would find a way to blame you. There's no way. What they're trying to do is strip honorable people of their honor, even in death. That's what they're doing. That's what they are doing.
Prevent a martyr.
That's exactly right.
That's their game.
But they do it with a lady hitting ice with the car. They do it with a guy kicking the tail light out of an officer's car, right? They lionize these people.
October 7th.
Yep.
They're all martyrs. It's okay. They're martyrs. They're the oppressed,
right?
The downtrodden. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah. The most clear example is David Dorn.
Yeah.
A black officer off duty helping a friend whose shop was being looted, was shot dead for a Westinghouse. And this was the only place where we raised money for the family. Like, that's a guy who should be held out as an example. And you know why they don't? because it might inspire a generation of younger black men. They might go, oh, wait, there is a different way. We can't have that. So we have to deify and we have to turn into heroes people like George Floyd, people like Mike Brown, people like Trayvon, people like Tamir Rice, people who try to hit ICE with their cars, people who throw Molotov cocktails. If Andy Ngo was killed tomorrow, they would say right-wing extremist, not Asian gay man killed by white radical leftists, because they're trying to ensure that you don't have honor even in death.
Yeah,
you don't hate them enough.
I mean, most recently, kid who happened to be, having sex with a transgender person who shot one of the largest right-wing figures on planet Earth. That was right-wing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right-wing violence.
Right-wing violence.
100% because his parents were Republicans.
Right.
Right. So therefore he must be. It's insane.
Yeah.
And it's always the supposition. They always lie. They always start with a suppositional lie. And the second you attack that pillar and it falls apart, then you get to see what they're really like. Glad he's dead.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's dead. He's a monster. You should have seen the series of TikTok invasions we did for weeks after that. We made them all public instead of paywalling any of them. And it was just TikToker after TikToker glorifying the fact that Kirk was horribly murdered.
Yeah.
They couldn't wait to do it. They dance on their graves. They don't give a shit.
And this ties into the Press Freedom Index. These same nonprofits, by the way, they rate us least accurate program in news. The only one that lists our references publicly. Keep in mind, these are the same people, members of these clubs, who said that we were lying when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and we were the first ones to bring you the story that the bullets were engraved. And we said that there were Antifa slogans engraved in the bullets and seemingly like LGBTQ stuff. They said that's not true. It's not confirmed. And then it came out, of course, fascist catch. And then their argument was, well, OWO notices bulge, which is some weird, furry, genderqueer subculture, isn't actually trans. So he was, but you said we were lying when we were the only ones who told the public there were engravings on the bullets. You guys remember that? And they move the goalposts and they say, see, least accurate program in news. Couldn't you argue that the people who said we were wrong were more inaccurate? Couldn't that? I would argue that. We said there are engravings on these bullet casings. They said, no, they're not. One of us was right.
Well, Candace Owens thought it was Fed slop.
Right. Yes, that's right. It was Fed slop.
And I think she's just a little
And we were
jealous.
subpoenaed by the feds for our Fed slop.
Fed slop, yes. Feds tend to come after you for what they give you. Andrew, really quickly, I want to go back to this because I understand, letting feminists deal with the consequences of their actions, just as a general rule, that tends to work and help move people out. But in this case, on kind of the idea of simping, they seem to be actually rallying against those things. It kind of they may have already figured that part of it out, at least with the immigration part, right?
No, it's not an overwhelming movement of women.
Well, it's just
a small movement of women.
But he's supporting that group of women specifically.
How come the women aren't dying for this and the men are, again? Right?
Yes and no, dude. I mean,
so he
died.
He got his face kicked in. He got murdered. Right? It's not the women who are out there protesting or getting murdered, but who's going to get the credit?
So when do you
hang on. Who's going to get the credit? If they're successful, it's going to be all the women get the credit, not the guy who got the shit kicked out of him, got beaten to death. None of that. It's I would like to see if it's the case that women there are really upset about this. Why don't they start moving towards things like, maybe we shouldn't vote? How come the feminists aren't there's a lot of this has to do with the fact that we're completely enfranchised. We have moved the country as far left as we possibly could. Maybe it's a good idea that we just stop voting.
Well,
that might be a good idea.
I disagree that maybe there needs to be more, but so baby steps, right? So you're not going to get people to go from where they are today to that extreme, right? I think even you would make that case, right? It's probably not going to happen tomorrow. You have to take baby steps to kind of get there. In this case, though, when do men support women trying to make corrections?
No, it should be women are supporting men who are making the corrections, and there's already
this group is already out there doing it. Men have been saying
they're
this
making
for as long as possible.
They're making it about them. They're making it about us and our movement and this and that. They're not out there supporting the far right men who have been, by the way, fighting against this for 25 years in France.
Yeah,
they've been losing their minds about it for about 25 years or longer. Where were they? And now you got men out there getting their shit kicked out and they're getting beaten to death on behalf of the very same type of movement and ideology which led to this in the first place. So it's look, I'm not saying that in France women shouldn't be saying, hey, we're tired of migrants and you're going to need them. in order to move the political goalpost. I'm just saying that maybe it's not a good idea if you're 22 years old and you want some of that French pussy to go out there and get beaten half to death or to death on behalf of an ideology, which the second they get freedom from this, will do everything they can to usher it back in. That's all I'm saying.
Here, let me be a middle ground here. Here's what I think does need to be included. Is it's not just migrants, and it's not people who go, it's not just elitists, it's not just politicians. These women's groups need to go, women, you're in the crosshairs. In other words, all other women, they need to go, hey, look, we need to police our own. This is because of leftist feminist suicidal sympathy.
Yep.
They need to come out and say, our gripe is with women. Because that is, if you are a traditional Christian conservative woman, like genuinely, not a meme, then your gripe is with the only voting bloc in this country, and by the way, in most of Europe, who have ushered in the modern era of leftism. There is no bloc big enough outside of female voters, largely suburban, privileged female voters. So when they avoid that and go, and this is, and I understand they'll go like, oh, I'm a TERF, but I'm actually doing this for women. Yeah, but you're not, though, if you're still pro-abortion. You're not, though, if you're still anti-Western civilization. You're not, though, if you're still pushing the idea of patriarchy. The premise does matter.
Well, and what I guess is,
but I agree with what you're saying. You're not going to get it all be a 180, but they still target men as the problem.
Yeah, no, but it's a really good critique from Andrew. Like, okay, let's say that they solve the immigration issue. They're going to go back to all of the other issues that they wanted.
Well, it's also infuriating. It's infuriating to me to note that I've listened to what these women are bitching about. Right? Yeah. These are legitimate gripes from a woman's perspective.
Being raped on a train is not fun for anybody.
Beaten. They don't want any of this stuff to happen to them. I get it. But interestingly enough, they only begin to care about their material conditions when it affects them. What I didn't hear in any of their speech is look at all the men that they're robbing. Look at the men that they're killing. It's always from a set of self. But when men are out there and they're screaming about the mass migration, what are they saying? You're raping our women. You're hurting our children. That's what they're saying. So they're willing to put themselves on a line and protect women. But the second the women get the podium, it's all about women again.
Right.
It's like, how about you also mention the fact that these economic migrants hurt the French economy? They've done everything to displace the worker. It's caused massive amounts of problems with their ethnic cohesion. I don't hear them saying any of that. Just, hey, we don't want bad stuff to happen to us. It's like, well, okay, but when men are advocating, they're advocating on your behalf. When are you going to advocate on theirs?
Yeah. No, I think that's a legitimate point.
It's fair, yeah.
I think it needs to be all-encompassing. Men included as an arrow in their quiver go 1, 2, 3. And by the way, not to mention the mass migrant rape. And you often look at these women's groups like, well, the rape in the sports. Also, that's one where I was, where were you when it was men fighting against women, women having to compete against biological men, just to be clear. Women weren't in that fight until you lost podium spots.
Yeah, until it started to affect them. The thing that gets me, though, is every time I see one of these far right-wing parties in Europe who are anti-mass migration, what's the first thing they say? You're hurting our women. You're hurting our children. You're raping our women. You're raping our children. They displace even the effects of themselves to prioritize the weaker sex and the children. Why the f*** aren't the women doing that? Instead, they're like, yeah, they are doing that to us. It's like, wait. Can you maybe support the men there? Can you maybe say, hey, tired of the fact that the men in my country can't get the great jobs because of economic displacement, because of all the oversaturation in unions, because of all the different... I would just like to see that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, they'll blame it on patriarchy as opposed to the real reason is because of 60s third wave feminism. That is the big reason that we look at a lot of the policies that we have. And like, it's because, men have been running the world. No. If you don't like the mass migration problem, if you don't like the degeneracy in the OnlyFans, you do need to take that up, not with just men in positions of power, but particularly the feminist movement, sexual liberation movement, the globalist feminist movement. Communism, Marxism, feminism, one and the same. That's by design. That's the only way that you see the changes that we have. And they need to call that out, not frame it as just an Islamic form of patriarchy. Oh, you're still here, which is a miracle in the age of Instagram and shorts. I think you have some shorts up there. You have an attention span that is longer than that of a fruit net. So thank you. I'm glad you probably would like it a lot more if you actually head over and subscribe on Rumble. I'm live there 5 days a week, 11 a.m. Eastern, where free speech is still alive. Go to Rumble. Get off the social media ghetto that is YouTube, with a lot of homosexual activity here on YouTube. There may be some on Rumble, but I haven't seen it.